What's up, guys? This is Julia, and today we're going to talk about the difference between goals and expectations, which is something that gets confused a lot in the process of goal setting, especially if you've never worked with a mental coach or a psychologist or somebody who helps you set specific goals. We tend to throw around words like goals, expectations, and motivation kind of in one packet, like it's a package deal, but they're totally different words, totally different concepts, totally different effects on your performance. So let's kind of break it down and clarify. Like, what do you think about when you think about an expectation? How does it feel? What are your thoughts? What are the first things that come to mind? And now think about, like, how do you feel about goals? Is it different? Is it the same? Like, does the same stuff come to mind? So to break down the actual terms, a goal is an end point essentially that you're striving for. Like, all your effort is directed towards this thing. So if you think about a pitch, there's two sides, right? And all your effort is directed towards one side for 45 minutes or however long you're playing for. If you're a sprinter, all of your effort is focused on that 100-meter mark. You're blowing out, and once you pass that mark, it's over. Like, that's your goal. As far as expectations, an expectation is a state of expecting. Like, that's the literal definition, which would make pretty much every English teacher or literature teacher cry with that definition. You're not supposed to use the word in the definition. But essentially, it's an assumption. So it's an assumption, it's anticipation of something being achieved as opposed to achieving it. Like, having an aim and having an anticipation are two completely different things. They might not sound different, but they really are, and how they work towards your performance. And a lot of times we tend to take on the expectations of others or expectations of ours that we don't actually want to take on, and that's really important to identify because we tend to do that without thinking, just in the run of the game, just in the run of working, just in the run of input from other people. So to help you combat that, what I would say is, first of all, do a little self-check. Like, what are my expectations for myself? And then what are other people's expectations for me? Like, literally name them, identify them, like put a name to them, figure out what they are, ask other people what their expectations are of you, and figure that out. Once you've identified what the expectations are, then you can go into, does that even matter to me? Like, do I give a fuck about that? Do I actually want to achieve that? Does proving this person right or wrong or fulfilling this expectation from this person actually like matter to me? Do I care about that at all? And if it's not important, then it pretty much ends there. Like, you can just restart this with something else. But if you say, yeah, that matters to me, then the next question would be, is it realistic? Like, if they're asking you as, I don't know, a Division III player to go play the Olympics next year, for example, a Division II kind of on a, like, sophomore, that you're going to play in the Olympics next year, that's probably not realistic. So you're going to have to look at, even whether it's yours or somebody else's. Like, I tend to criticize myself very much. I know a lot of high-performance athletes tend to criticize themselves very much and have very high standards. So it's important to ask, is this realistic? But also coming from other people, like, a lot of times they have no idea, and they have no idea in the pressure that their expectation is putting on you for something that is not even achievable in your wildest dreams. Not saying we shouldn't have realistic goals or unrealistic goals, like have high goals, we definitely should, but having unrealistic expectations is actually very harmful. So once you've identified what they are, if they matter to you personally, and if they're realistic, we can move on to step 4. And step 4 is, you're gonna take like a block of paper, or you can write it down somewhere, but you literally need to write it down. 5 people, maximum of 5, whose feedback and opinions matter to you. Because again, this thing about expectations is there's a lot of noise in sports or whatever performance environment you're in. There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of opinions, there's a lot of people talking, and a lot of people talking to and at you. And we tend to take these things on without thinking. So it's important to be like purposeful about, these are the people whose feedback matters to me. These are the people I'm listening to. These are the people that I want support from. These are the people whose opinion, again, matters to me. So write that down. You can also write down a maximum of 3 systems. That could be like your statistics, your manager, your strength, like things of that nature. Those other feedback mechanisms that aren't people, like family, friends, coach, you can write those down as well, because those are external feedback systems. You still need to collect feedback, right? Because that's how we get better, but you don't need to take on random people's feedback. That's the goal. So literally write it down. And then lastly, once we've figured out what they are, figured out if it matters, figured out if it's realistic, figured out whose opinions matter to us, and literally written it down. I can't say that enough times. It's time to now identify the steps of getting to that goal, because we've taken that expectation, we've taken responsibility for it, and we've turned it into a goal now. That's our end goal, that's our aim, right? That thing that we're directing our effort towards. So now we need to know how we're directing our effort towards it. So literally write down the steps. Again, the power of writing things down. Write down the steps that it takes to get to your goal. How many laps you gotta do, how fast you gotta run, how often you gotta train, how many performances you have to have between this and this. Whatever your goal is, write down the steps to get to that goal. And those are now your mini goals, and those are how you can track your progress of getting towards your end goal. So I hope that this was helpful. I know that my brain is like all over the place. It always is. Again, talking to the camera is not my ministry. It's a lot different than talking to a room full of people when I'm lecturing. But I hope this was helpful. And if you have any requests for other topics that we should discuss, leave it in the comments, shoot me a DM, and I'm more than happy to make a video about it. So I wish everybody a great rest of your week, or wherever you're watching this stupid shit, then have a good one.